Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the ManBun Show. I am your host, Ghaid Al Qaisi, reporting live for duty. And with me are two of the most inspiring people that I've currently met, actually. The idea of this podcast episode actually wasn't in my head, it wasn't planned. But the fact that these guys came over sparked up the idea of the topic which we're going to talk about right now. Drums. It's pretty interesting. I think everyone's gonna benefit a lot from it. The topic of today's episode will be mental health, well-being, and awareness. And with me is Mr. Ahmed Saad and Miss Sarah. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Buddy, all good.
How
How are
guys
you?
doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Very
how
excited.
how's your week shaping up to be?
Hmm. A lot of things to do for the business. A lot of people to contact. A lot of networking to do.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Right, guys. So let's jump straight to it. Mental health.
Let's go.
Who's gonna start then? Should we spark up the first question?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what is mental health, guys?
All right, so let me give you like the definition that the WHO uses, the World Health Organization. So basically, it's a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own potential and can cope with life's normal stresses and can work productively, and they can contribute or make a contribution towards their community, his or her community. And the important thing is about this is that people should know that mental health is more than just the absence of a mental health illness, right, or disabilities. So it's just anything. You don't have to have an illness to know about mental health. Everyone should know about it. It's very important, and just to be able to cope with life's stresses. Everyone stresses in life, whether from work, from finances, from family affairs, friend affairs. So it's a topic that's very important for everyone to be educated about.
It's funny
Yeah.
that you said that. Yeah, go on, Sarah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to echo that really and just say, that life kind of I guess a simpler way of understanding it is that life kind of throws a lot at you, for the better, for the worse sometimes. So it's just, mental health is kind of, you have that resilience and that robustness to, kind of bounce back from things. And, it's completely normal to be knocked off track a little bit by things, but, for it not to become kind of an ongoing problem. Yeah.
It's funny because very few people actually were aware of the true definition of mental health. I mean, everyone used to talk about it 10 years ago, in a more comical way, if you get where I'm coming from. Whenever the idea sparks out about mental health, people just usually look at it and I'm like, just shut up, man. What is mental health? I mean, it's nothing. People they just take it in a more very disrespectful way. And if you guys know what I'm saying, and from then up until now, where people actually started to realize, my God, I mean, mental health is something that people should be actually aware of, understand, dissect in a proper way, look into it from our own life's perspectives and things that we do in our life, whether it's work related, personal, etc., and all of that. It's a pretty interesting topic that was sparked up, and people are extremely into it. And nowadays, the minute you talk about mental health, or the minute you spark the topic about mental health, people will just jump on. Oh, did you see this video on YouTube or Netflix? They're dropping this and they're dropping that. It's pretty interesting, Like people are more aware of it and whatnot,
It's
I think
becoming
it's
a
really
trend, which is a good thing.
interesting.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Sarah.
yeah. No, I was going to say, I think it's really interesting actually that you've noticed that change, because it's something that I've noticed that, for quite a long time, I think people have associated mental health with mental illness. So you
Right.
talk about mental health and straight off people think that you're talking about illness. But actually, I think it's becoming more obvious now and more talked about. So people are seeing it from a wellness point of view, and actually it's not all negative.
Well,
Which is great.
if you think about it, if you don't take care of your mental health, it will predominantly develop into a mental illness.
Exactly. Same as
know?
physical health. You've got to look
Exactly. I mean,
after your whole self.
I like to look at it in a more funny way. It's like when we were kids and we used to play Pokemon, and the Pokemon evolves from one shape to another, whatever. This is it, actually. I mean, as funny as it sounds, but it actually is that, like if you take care of it, nurture it, and whatever, it will develop to something better and bigger, and if you don't, it will just die out,
Definitely.
inside or whatever. That's pretty interesting. What do you guys think about, like, the challenges of the mental health? Like, what challenges are there in terms of like age factors, etc., and all of that?
I mean, I think before I let Ahmed jump in first, I was going to say, I think it's even thinking
women empowerment.
Like, you got to get in there first. I think before even getting down to the finer points of it, I think one of the biggest challenges is still the stigma of mental health and mental health problems, and actually people being able to talk about it. Because, there are increasing services out there. There's more apps and helplines and self-help and things like that. But actually, that big umbrella of stigma is still one that needs some shifting. So that's
very true. And I think so. Carrying on to what Sarah said earlier about it is as important as physical health. Once people start to realize that, the more and more the stigma is going to melt, right? So it's not something that we should be scared to talk about. It's not a taboo topic anymore, right? People are very proud of every New Year's giving their subscriptions, going to subscribe in gyms and stuff. So eventually we're going to get there. We're going to get to the point where people are proud. Yeah, I'm going to the gym. I'm taking care of, I'm getting this summer body in shape. So people are going to start getting their minds in shape as well, because they're going to realize how it benefits them eventually.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you said that, because, I mean, you can actually link everything there. As I just said, you can link everything that you do in your life to mental health. I mean, you just mentioned, like, getting the summer body, going to the gym. People are more concerned about eating healthy now, etc., and all of that. I mean, yes, I mean, we could jump into it from a negative perspective and say, like, oh, this is stereotyping and it's just a trend that started not long ago, and people like eating healthy, etc., and watching their diet, calculating their calories. And believe it or not, I used to be one of them, and I kind of am still one of those people, but it actually has a silver lining. There's benefits in this, and reflecting on the mental health and the well-being of a person. If you follow these formulas or these toolboxes or whatever and all that, you will indirectly or subliminally actually like increase your well-being, and hence you don't have to suffer and go through any types of anxieties, etc., and all of that. It's pretty interesting, actually. Don't you guys think?
But it's also it is, and it's also okay to go through some challenges in life, right? Life isn't just smooth sailing. You will get there will be times where you're going to be pushed down, and you need to, either by yourself or by the support, better yet, by the support of the people around you, your community, right? You get back on your feet and you soldier on. So it's okay to fall once in a while, right? That's what
I mean,
helps you.
I don't think it's okay. I think you should fall. I mean,
it will happen.
I mean, honestly,
it's gonna happen.
How else would you learn? I mean, you could learn from watching people fall. That could be one, but it will just give you like a decent percentage. Let's put it that way. I don't want to be a mathematician and give you the exact statistics about it, because I don't know. Okay, but I mean, watching people go into things and jump out of it or whatever does help your morale and your mental health. But if you don't personally go into such things and experience it in what way or another, then how the hell else are you going to come out of it?
Very true.
I think it's really interesting, actually, because I think it will happen. It happens, whether it's a loss, maybe a loved one dies, or, or you lose your job. I have yet to meet anyone who's kind of going through life without facing any kind of problem. I think the difficulty, again, kind of linking back, you're talking about the challenges and maybe about stigma, is encouraging people to find the language to express it when those events happen, to talk about it, because actually otherwise you can kind of go through life, and unless you actually reflect on what's going on and you've been made aware that actually if you are starting to maybe not sleep so well, or you've lost your appetite a bit, or you can't really be bothered to go to the gym anymore, those things can be things to watch out for.
Express the language, exactly. That's a pretty great
Someone gave me a really nice analogy once. I don't know if it would translate so well here, but in the UK, there's a reputation of white van man. So, they kind of drive around, they just take no notice, they knock off wing mirrors, they do whatever, and you might be the person who can only just afford to get their car on the road, and then someone knocks your wing mirror off. But actually, it's the guy in the white van man who doesn't kind of stop to think about, things. So maybe it's the impact on other people, maybe it's, what's going on for them, kind of cruising through life without any reflection. I think that's where sometimes people get hung up, and then maybe in the end they're okay. Maybe in the end it catches up with them. It's it's having the language for the conversation. I think it's really important.
I have a good question for you, Sarah. Having lived in the UK myself, don't you think? That's just a random question, but don't you think that the weather itself
100%.
has a huge factor on how a person's mental well-being is?
Yeah. Although, it's interesting. I think it can go both ways. I think the whole thing about people, not even just mental health, but about people, is we're all so different. Like, we all like different things. For me, I love the hot weather. That's, I wouldn't be here if I didn't. But I've got, but I know, people who love the winter, who, they're just like, oh, I love it when the leaves are turning, or, and it's cold in the mornings. So I think it definitely does have an impact on some people, for sure. You've got seasonal affective disorder, and then, when the days are shorter and the weather's bad and you can't go out and do things. But like with everything, I think it's so individual.
That's pretty true.
Yeah.
Me personally, if I wake up and it's super cloudy, even if we're in Abu Dhabi, right? So it's rarely the case that you open your curtains and it's super cloudy. But when it does, I know that this day is going to be like, all right, it's going to be one of those days that I don't want to get out of bed. I just don't want to. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to meet anyone. It just puts me in a like a bummer mood.
Yeah, but don't you think that this is kind of a stereotype? Honestly, this is what everyone says. It's fair enough. It could be explainable. Yeah, it could make it could have actually a scientific description to it. But don't you think that it's, as Sarah said, it's truly up to you? You get to decide how your day goes.
Yeah.
We all think 100%. I'm one of those people that if I wake up and it's gloomy, because when I lived in the UK, like at first when I first moved there, I saw, like, I used to wake up and it was dark, and then I go do my stuff and come back and it's still dark, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is this?
It's terrible. That's what it is.
It is. It kind of takes a tail on you,
Yeah. You have no idea when the day starts, when it ends, and I don't know.
You have a productive day and this and that, and you go like, you do this. I do a million things a day, and I'm like, what the hell? I've done all of this, and like, come on,
Yeah. But again, the flip side, I'm a little bit irritatingly positive. I'd say that actually, like, for sure, some people get really down, and I hate the British winter, which basically runs from like September to April. But I think also it can make people a bit more kind of carry on regardless in their style, a bit more resilient, because actually, if you wait for a sunny day, you're never going to go to the beach. Do you know what I mean? So
it's funny because it makes you actually how would I say it? Enjoy the little things in life. Appreciate those little things in life. Where, like, people in here, for example, are like, oh, it's too hot. It's always sunny and whatever. And when I came back, I'm like, you motherfuckers. If you only knew how the weather is there, you would have, like, thank God, left, right, and center every single day for the blessings that you live in, you know?
It's taken me a while to realize that I don't have to panic about going outside on a sunny day anymore, because I used to get really, like, if I had to be in work, I was like, I've got to go outside though, because I don't know when it's going to be sunny again.
But actually, so back, I think in 2012, I'll just share with you a very quick funny story, of something that happened to me when I was in the UK. So when it's summer, when the sun is out, the sun is out for a very long time. Yeah, there's very limited time for the dark. I remember, I think it was 2012. I was in 2002. It was my first or second year in high school. Yeah, 2002. My first or second year in high school, and I went to this boarding school in a place called Oswestry in the UK, and I went there for just like a month or something. And I remember that the Isha prayer, so the last prayer of the day, was, I think, I don't know, at 7 or at 7:30 p.m. and the sun was like straight up, like there, maybe it's not the sun, but the light was bright outside, right? And unfortunately, I was, I think, 12 years old, and I was put in the dormitory. So there were like different dormitories for every age range, and I was put with a younger age, where they're supposed to sleep earlier than the older ones. And I had to go to bed at, I think, at like 8 or 8:30 or 9 or something like that. Like everyone has to be in bed, and I used to pray like the last prayer, which is supposedly in the dark. So for us, usually it's Asha is in the dark and the sun is completely up. Yeah. And I pray, and then I have to go to bed in light. And that for me was like,
it is. It's kind of, yeah.
That doesn't make sense. You know, how? Like, it's not bedtime, you know, the sun's still up. And it was just crazy. It was crazy. Like both seasons are extreme. You know, you don't have this middle ground, or maybe I'm not used to it. I don't know.
No, it's all just, the whole year is a mix of everything. I think that's the problem.
It's kind of unpredictable. Exactly. Okay, enough fun, guys. Let's go back to it. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's get serious. Right.
Enough weather talk.
So, if we want to go and talk about actually, this is one of the most important questions: the causes of mental health and why it happens, and the warning signs. Now, I want to go and direct this question and combine 2 or 3 questions in one. If you guys can give me your professional response to this and combine it with what got you into this, what got you into mental health. Because I think that the reason, this is what I think, and correct me, maybe I'm wrong, the reason why you got into it is because you either have seen this, or most probably you've been into like such a predicament that got you aware of this whole thing. So if you can give me first and foremost your professional response to it, and then we move on, and I want you guys to talk about your personal experience in this, and hence the reason why you became who you guys are now and what you guys are practicing, etc., and all of that. Go.
Okay. Do you want me to kick off?
Of course. Women always
Okay.
go first.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So I scribbled down the 3 points so that I don't like ramble on, because I have a tendency to do that. So thinking about like the causes, I guess the easiest way to think about it, because there are many, and actually it's really hard to pick out, someone had X and Y, so now they have Z. But you think about like nature, nurture. So, what you're born with, what is your kind of personality like? What is your health like? What are the kind of the genes that you're coming into the world with? And then you're thinking about the nurture. So what are your experiences of parenting? What we know about mental health and mental health difficulties is the importance of early attachments to your caregivers. So, when you cry, is someone going to pick you up? Are they going to comfort you? Are they going to meet your needs? And that is so vital for how we develop as people and our sense of self, how we regulate our own emotions, our sense of value to others. So when there are maybe disruptions to that, and that can be, not through bad parenting, for want of a better expression, sometimes if maybe the mother is taken really ill and actually is in hospital, or maybe if the baby is in a special care baby unit, or, things happen in life, which means that maybe there's changes in caregiver, things like that, that can interrupt kind of healthy development, I guess. Whether you grow up maybe around trauma, maybe if you've experienced some form of abuse, or say you've been in a car accident, or whatever the trauma is, that can be another cause. That's kind of more of a sociological, it's that growing up nurture kind of thing. So the kind of, the things that are kind of going on around you, I guess. The thing to say though is, again, with the positive swing that I've always got, is that what the evidence says is that, okay, even if you do have these disrupted attachments, if you do have early trauma and those kind of things, that can be a bit more complicated. But with the early attachment difficulties, as long as you've got one person, they think, or the parenting or the caregiving is good enough, it will kind of get you through. So just because, I wouldn't want people out there to think, oh, my baby was in special care baby unit for like 3 months, or, I was taken into hospital. That means that, they're going to grow up and have mental problems. Not at all. None of it is definitive. I think that's the thing. So then thinking about signs, I guess they can emerge differently across the lifespan as well. So, you might have, maybe children who are maybe a bit more kind of clingy to their parents, or a bit more, the thing is, it's awkward because it can go one way or the other. So they might be too clingy, or they might be a bit more cold. Right. They might be fearful of strangers, or they might be over familiar with strangers because they're kind of looking to attach as a protection mechanism. Going through, sleeplessness, bedwetting, all that kind of stuff. And then through puberty, maybe it kind of becomes more about changes in behavior. They kind of maybe not washing so much. They don't want to see their friends so much. They're, or they're always on their computer. They're always in their room, or it's, and again, I guess there's similar thread kind of going on, into adults. This is similar to adolescence, I guess, in terms of you might see the social stuff starting to fall away, or, loss of interest in things, loss of enjoyment, sort of apathy. You've got the more extreme spectrum where people might hear or see things that others don't. So thinking about maybe hearing voices, people might start to develop sort of repetitive rituals as a way of managing anxiety. And you might see just, your standard, you might just see emotional distress. You might see someone really tearful or really low, or, the kind of things that are maybe more obviously noticed. But I think really the thing to watch out for is changes. There's always changes, because actually someone might have a really introverted personality. They might just like their own company. Yeah. I'm a bit of a card carrying one of those as well. But I think it is the change, and it's not just like, okay, for one day he was really strange, or like a couple of days, they looked really different. It's more thinking, if a few days turns into like a week or 2 weeks, and then you start to see kind of it's creeping on. I guess those would be the times to think about, whether you need to get some advice from someone. I'm going to take the rambling path into why I'm doing it, why I started to work in mental health. So I guess it kind of links in with all of those things. So I was involved with mental illness before I could even speak. So my mum, when I was born, my mum was diagnosed. It's in the 80s. She was diagnosed with like postpartum manic depression, which is now known as bipolar disorder. So through my childhood, she was in and out of psychiatric units, detained under the Mental Health Act in the UK for kind of 3 months, 6 months. My kind of care was moved to different family members. She always came home and we kind of reconnected. But for sure, at times, my mum was someone who was completely unrecognizable to me. And I could be quite scared of her as a child. So it was that kind of uncertainty about what you're going to get. But she'd come back, normal. Wow. So I think I never went into work, I never set out with the intention of working in mental health, but just life just took me that way, So then I started working in a psychiatric hospital, and I went on and did my social work training, and then worked in mental health services for like 13 years. And I think the hook for me and the thing that drives me is people can be well, people can seem like all is lost. People can, try to end their lives. People can seem like they are completely disconnected from reality and say the most strange and bizarre, frightening things to you. But with treatment, they come back to normal, as it were, for want of a better expression, labeling normal with abnormal. So I think it drives me to advocate for people, because actually it's a health problem. It's, whether it's trauma or life, or whether it's genetic or whatever it is, it's something that can be treated and people can get on with life. So, just try and champion that cause, really.
That's
in a nutshell. An elaborate nutshell.
I literally did not swallow for the entire conversation. I'm like, whoa. Like I literally forgot to swallow, and I just remember that my mouth is dry.
Swallow now.
I have to swallow, because now I'm giving the gentleman the floor, and he's gonna make my mouth dry as well.
I'm also gonna have a drink too.
I forgot to get my drink. Damn it. Okay, sir. The floor is yours.
I'll have one for you later then.
Please.
So I think Sarah covered very well the causes and warning signs and how can you really see it on yourself or in others as well.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about what got me here. Like, what's my experience, which is pretty bizarre as well. As
it has
Sarah,
to be if you're doing what you're doing right now. I mean, it has to be goddamn bizarre. Bro.
Yeah,
come on.
It's never a conventional route.
so I'll give you like a confession that my first like acknowledgement that I would. So I'm an Arab male, right? So for me, I probably most of the same characteristics that characterize most Arab males are there. Like we're the macho man that you need to be, tough. You need to be resilient. You need to fight whatever life throws at you. You can never be weak. You can never, cry. All that stuff. So yeah, and of course, I would never acknowledge that I would go through a mental health illness, right? Because I'm stronger
you've
than
been
that.
taught differently, I guess. I mean,
like
I could relate as well, but yeah.
So basically, my very first, let me tell you, not my first experience with a mental health challenge, but the second one, which I realized I am going through a mental health challenge. It's very funny because it was on my birthday. You'd never think that someone would break down on their birthday, right? It was a happy day. It was like, you have everyone around you and you did not think that. So basically what happened on my birthday of this year, 2020, it was early in the year, so before COVID, before all that. And basically my girlfriend hosted a surprise birthday party for me. Yeah. And all my friends were there. Everyone was there, and one of our co-founders as well, Alba, she's not with us today because she's on vacation, taking care of her own mental health. She was there as well with her husband.
I don't know if he's throwing shots or he's being serious, but yeah. Anyway.
No, she is there taking care of her mental health.
I know she's taking care of her mental health, but the way you said it, brother.
There was a little bit of holiday envy there, I think.
He said the holiday and then taking care of her mental health. Well, should be the other way around. But anyway.
Yeah. So basically, it was a very good day. Yeah, it was amazing. I was having so much fun. Like the night was going perfectly, and we were dancing. We were like having an amazing time. And all of a sudden, like towards the end of the night, just out of the blue, I start like coughing hysterically, and I start feeling my heartbeats just going like super fast, right? And I think, all right, maybe I'm tired, like it's been a long day. We've been dancing for a lot. I'm a smoker. So I thought, all right, you know what? You smoked a lot. So just stop smoking for a bit and just sit down, take your breath. And I did that, I just sat down, trying to, catch my breath, but just coughing nonstop. And my heart would just not slow down. So I left, so we were out somewhere and I left the place. Like I was still in the place, but I left to a place where I can just, grab some fresh air. I did that and nothing was helping. And then Alba just came after me and she was like, you know what, you want to get out and like, have a walk or something? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then we went out of the place. We went for a walk next to the venue and we sat down on the pavement. And she was like, you're going through an anxiety attack, right? And she was like, no, first of all, when she came to me, she's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good. Just, I feel my heart racing and I'm like, I'm coughing while I'm speaking. Yeah. The cough would not go. And then she was like, do you want to go out? And then, as we go out, she was like, you're going through an anxiety attack, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I'm not, and I'm talking to her through the coughing, telling her that I'm just tired. I need to take a break. I smoked a lot tonight. It's just, I'm good.
It's a habit, actually. I mean, it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. Nothing's wrong, And she was like, it was a very weird conversation, right? And she was like, no, it's okay if you don't want to acknowledge it, but I'm telling you, you're having an anxiety attack, and the faster you acknowledge it and accept it, the faster you're gonna go back to normal. Yeah. I was like, no, just it's okay.
That's male ego, I guess. I mean, the male.
It is. It is.
No, it's nothing. Like I just smoked. You just diverted it to smoke straight away.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's pretty interesting as well. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, sorry.
And then she was like, okay, suit yourself. I just wanted to let you know it's okay. And it's okay not to be okay. You're not okay, and that's okay. And I'm just here. If you just do whatever you want, but try to relax, and you're gonna be fine.
Right.
And then I just went into my own head, and I was like, could this be true? Could I be having an anxiety attack? I was just, the thoughts were just going into my head. I was like, it maybe could be. an anxiety attack, you know. I don't know, just I started to go on a roll where I'm starting to accept it. And just like that, like 10 seconds, I swear, 10 seconds later, the cough stopped instantaneously. Like just 10 seconds later, when the thought went through my head, the cough just stopped. And my heart started, you know, pacing itself. It went down. And I was like, I looked at her, and the first thing I told her was, I hate you. You know, it was just me acknowledging, like, I just went through that, you know, and thankfully she was there, and she knew what was going on, and she told me.
That is actually,
of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. And I was like she's, you know, she knows I love her, you know, and I was like, I hate you, you know, and she was like, I know, it's okay, you know, and then she hugged me, and it was fine, you know. And then I realized that, you know, something, I've been through this experience before, and I never really thought about it. And so I did go through an anxiety attack before, but in hindsight, when I look back at it, I acknowledge that, I've been through this before. I just never knew what it was. Right. So yeah, you think that nothing like this would ever happen to you. Everyone thinks that, you know. I've met a lot of people, a lot of Arabs thinking, you know, I'm good, you know, nothing's ever gonna touch me, you know. But life gets to you. And I've been like doing that, although it was my birthday, right? It was very and she told me, like, maybe it's because of the excitement, maybe it's because, you know, the surprise, you're having a lot of feelings going on. But she told me as well, like, I've been going through a rough couple of months, and I pride myself with having this, you know, like Sarah said, this positive, this happy personality. Like I want to spread joy to everyone. I never want to be a negative influence. If I'm feeling down, I want to separate myself. I don't want to emit those negative vibes on anyone. So I pride myself on that. And, you know, I love bringing people happiness and joy, you know. So during those couple of months where I was like facing some difficulties, I never really showed them. You know, I just kept on shoving them down somewhere and portraying this very happy, very, you know, positive vibe. But then these things, she told me, like, these things, you know, they catch up to you. You know, you keep on just bottling them up, and at some point, you know, the bottle is going to explode.
Because you probably built some sort of a thick facade where, like, I'm the person of positivity, X, Y, and Z, and this, and then the minute, like, the minute the
pressure builds up,
the pressure was too strong, it came towards it shattered the glass, and everything just came out. And you're there sitting and like, whoa, what happened?
What just happened?
Yeah. God, I mean, this is how it happens, because, like, I don't want to go into details into this, because I said it in my first episode on how the reason why I started this podcast is because of what I was going with, etc., and all that. And yeah, I mean, people can relate to it if they want to listen to the first episode. I've said it. I mean, it's something similar to this, but it's not anxiety. Mine was more or less towards depression. Still a mental health issue, but it's still it was still a cause, and took me a while to understand the whole thing. It took me a year to grasp and clench the tip of the thread to understand what was going on with me, and then bit by bit I tried to, like, okay, let me just grab the rope bit by bit, and then boom, everything just went back to normal. I mean, you start practicing different things. I mean, trying to enjoy the simplest of things that you have around you. I mean, I have a roof, I have a good spouse, I have good friends around me, etc., and all of that. The minute you start, like, just viewing all the positives and neglecting, I mean, not really neglecting, but literally just shoving aside all the negative thoughts that you have around you, etc., and all that, whether those things happen to you when you're an adult or when you were a kid, that your subconscious stored them, and it just gets shoved in your conscious mind every once in a while. Deja vu, okay? And then you just realize, you go like, okay, I mean, like, I know what's wrong with me. I know what I have. So how do I deal with it? How do I get out of it now? Or whatever.
That's key, right?
I'm here. Like, I've established, because I think the hardest part is actually admitting to it. Just like an alcoholic or an addict. I mean, it is kind of, in concept, it is the same thing. I mean, the hardest part is accepting that you have such an illness or such a disorder.
An episode, yeah. It could be an episode.
I was going to say, even before, I kind of think that even before accepting, we have to realize, like, you have to realize you're not okay. Because when I went through a similar like period of low mood when I was working back in the UK, and it was brought on by burnout. It was a really, really stressful, intense job, other things going on in life, and I kind of thought I was okay. For quite a long time, I was like, oh, I just, on my days off, I just want to be quiet. I don't want to see people. Like, I work with people all the time. I'm just going to, I'll just do that. And then, bit by bit, but it was actually, someone else that noticed something about me. They were like, oh, because normally I'm smiling all the time. I'm really, cheerful, whatever. Same as Ahmed, if I got things going on, I kind of try and leave them at home. But I didn't realize it was actually starting to become noticeable. And it wasn't until someone said to me, I think you should see a doctor. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was all right, aren't I? And then I started to think, actually, no, I'm not. But, sometimes it's, then you can kind of start thinking, what do I do about this? But it's, sometimes you don't even notice it for yourself until it's at a point where it's getting quite tricky to manage. So I think having awareness is
100%,
good.
because this was my coming question, because it relates, because in the sense that when you find that you have a mental health illness, let's say whether it's anxiety, depression, stress, etc., and all of that, is how do you deal with it as one, and how do you channel, control it prior to it reaching out to a high level or an advanced level, whereas, for example, you can say that prolonged stress periods, and for example, okay, if you put that all, how do you channel those things and get rid of it, solve it, prior to you needing or requiring an actual doctor, psychologist, a psychiatrist, etc., and all of that has to be treated, that have you treated with pills, etc., with therapy and whatever. So my question is how do you deal with it? How do you channel it and prevent it at an early stage, for it to reach to some stages where it's uncontrollable by the person who has the illness himself or herself?
Yeah.
So I think we also really believe in a community approach, right? Like you said earlier that you were looking at the things that I have. I have a house, I have a spouse, I have a lovely group of friends who are always there for you, and even if everyone, even introverts, you really need to tap into those resources that you have, right? Like the community, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's coworkers, whoever you see or you think are closest to you and are gonna hear you out judgment free. Just talking to someone helps a lot. People I cannot stress enough on how much it helps. Just to open up to someone, tell them, I'm going through a tough time. Not even seeking advice, just wanting to speak. So people can listen to you.
Just venting it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing that people can do, and people really underestimate the value of it, right? People think, I don't want to seem weak in front of someone. I don't want someone to carry my baggage. So community is there, or your family, your friends, whatever community you're part of, they're there for a reason. They're there, and that's how the community rises as a whole, right? So with us all supporting each other, and that's part of what we're doing, right? We're self-advocating. We've all faced challenges, and we're self-advocating for the same thing. People go through these things. Let's help each other out, because at one point or another, we're gonna go down that pit, and we're gonna just help each other to get back to our feet. So one thing is just talk to someone, find someone to talk to.
You're putting it on society, basically. You just let basically what you're saying is involve whoever is around you, and it's whoever is kind of close to you. Let's say not everyone, but whoever is close to you, try to involve them as much as you can. And you never know, because the medicine could be in one of whoever's around you's mouth. You could just with one word or whatever and all that, and boom,
and there is a responsibility on an individual itself. So the responsibility is not 100%. Only on the community. So the person should be relaxed enough, should know that if when he talks, it's gonna be perceived well. The community's responsibility is to, of course, provide a safe space, like a judgment-free environment. So whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's coworkers, whether it's your spouse, your partner, right? So the person needs to know that whatever I'm gonna share it's going to be like not judged in any way, right? They're
well
not.
contained, basically. Yeah. But I mean, there's a risk in this. I mean, honestly, I mean, you can't.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't really, like, because I've had it myself, and I'm guessing you guys did too. Where like I'm trying to speak to a person and telling them about my issues, and I'm like, oh, I'm going through this and whatever, but the person doesn't seem to understand that I'm not talking to you to seek your advice, professional advice or not, because you're a engineer, I'm an engineer, you're not a psychologist, so I'm talking to you as a friend. I want you to listen, I don't want you to talk. I don't want you to
and
tell
it's
me
actually
sorry sorry, I don't want you to tell me that things are going to be okay, because this sentence itself, literally, if I am going 2 steps ahead with what I'm doing, and like I was treating myself by doing things, and I'm climbing up the ladder pretty well, the minute someone says this to me when I'm talking to them, takes me 2 steps back. And I get, like, me being an introvert and being extremely quiet, actually, I'm not an aggressive person or an angry person, it pisses the shit out of me. Honestly, God, like, it just pulls a nerve. I'm like, come on, man, why did you say that? Just be quiet, you know?
Yeah. I think we underestimate is actually, sometimes what we need is just to be heard, but actually it's quite a difficult thing to just listen to someone, unless it's maybe comes naturally to you. I think for people it can be really difficult. That's why they actually, they teach communication skills. They, you can learn how to listen. It's not something that it comes easily to everyone. I think people sometimes, they want to help. People around you just want to help, so they just want to kind of save. They want to try and make it better. They want to tell you it's going to be okay. But sometimes you just need someone to say, "That sounds really difficult.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
That sounds really exhausting." Or and I was thinking, it's really important to talk to people, but, I guess there will be people who don't have anyone that they can talk to. So, for that, there's some really good apps. There's some forums, self-help websites. Locally as well, there are more organizations. I mean, we're going to be trying to get going like a regular Zoom kind of meetup for people where people will be able to have cameras off, mics off if they want to, who can just reach out to us, or you've got organizations like Darkness into Light, so if you don't feel able to speak to people around you, I think the message would be, find some way of kind of reaching out to someone, whether it's anonymously through the internet or you feel you can go to a session. And also I think the thing is remembering that mental health and mental illness is a spectrum. So just because you have a period of low mood doesn't mean you have depression. Just because you have anxiety doesn't mean that you're going to develop OCD or constant panic attacks. Or just because you have ups and downs doesn't mean you're bipolar. There's such a spectrum. So I think it's recognizing that actually the time maybe to think about seeking professional help is if things are interfering with your daily living. If you're struggling to do the things that you normally would do, if you don't want to go to work, if you're struggling to get the motivation even to shower, something as basic as that sometimes can be just a monumental task for people. If things are starting to be impacting on your life on a regular basis for kind of more than 2 weeks, I'd say, see a doctor. I mean, I'm still learning the processes of who you can see in this country because I'm new. So in the UK, your first port of call would always be your general practitioner. Right, exactly. I don't know how the things work here yet, so I don't know whether you guys are more aware of it.
We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, exactly, because this is something that we would like to tap, or I personally would like to tap into. I mean, but the moral of what you just said, honestly, I mean, it's just the fact that you should, what I understood is that you should basically listen to yourself, understand it, then listen to others. Because this is what what I understood when we said, like, you have to listen to your own self, see what the problem is, and then you start listening to others. I mean, and if you
speak to others as well.
Speak to others about it, and the fact, and if you, as you said, can't see you seem to have a disconnection with your own self, and you can't hear yourself, that's when you probably should see, I think, a professional in this, and then just to aid you, like, get the connection back in line with yourself prior to you speaking out to people, right?
Correct. And I think the thing to remember is,
Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the thing, like the biggest message is, you're not crazy. You're just having a difficult time and you need a bit of help. It's like Ahmed mentioned the other day, and we often use that physical health analogy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fall down, you break your leg. You can drag around your broken leg for a while.
Right.
But actually, maybe it's not going to heal, or it's going to heal a bit funny, and you might need to see a doctor. So it's a similar thing if you kind of think of mental health in the same way.
It's funny you guys brought it up, because we spoke about it just a while back when we talk about like speaking out to people and making them listen to what we say and etc. and all that. The factor of one of the biggest issues here, I think, that we're facing in the Middle East essentially is the fact that what Ahmed tapped into a while back by saying that it's difficult for men to admit that they have mental health. Because our culture in general and the society that we live in as Arabs, okay, I'm not going to say now, but we were not, or the old generation were not very accepting of this fact. Hence that even if you have the idea of you wanting to have people listen to you, whether the closest people to you, whether it's your dad, your mom, your sister, your brother, etc., and all of that, or going out to, for example, your uncle or aunt, because we as kids, for example, when we used to like always lean on to our elders. Like, I have this issue, like, what do you think of it? How do I fix it? How do I do this and that? But us as Arabs, what we were actually, or the old generation used to think about mental health, is that the minute you come and approach them with a certain thing, and like, I have this, I can't sleep, I'm having anxiety attacks, I can't sleep, etc., and all of that. And what Ahmed Saad personally went through, okay, because it kind of revolves around this. They just take it as a mockery. They're like, no, you can just go, and excuse me, I'm not trying to be harsh, but they just go like, go read the Quran or whatever, and you'll be okay. There's no disrespect in this, but really, this is the first thing that jumps in your mind. Or
so
like,
let me
go wash up, or like go sleep, or go, don't you had a lot of food, whatever. They always give those those kind of like illogical explanations where like and sadly enough, we used to actually believe it and interpret it. Like, the minute we go like we don't feel well, I'm like, oh, maybe I ate a lot today, like, oh, I've had a fizzy drink today and I don't feel well, whatever, and all that. You see, it's implanted and imprinted in our brains, and our subconscious always like brings out those ideas and whatever. But the minute we started thinking about the mental health thing, these things started not making any sense. Yeah, Ahmed, you were saying. I know you got a lot to
true.
talk about.
I think it's just like an issue of lack of knowledge, right? So these things are not taught in school, so nobody is really like educated about them unless they go and do the research, right? And mental health in general in our society is something relatively new, right? And there's so much shame surrounding it. There's so much stigma surrounding it. Like, if like, I don't know, someone like 10 years ago would go to their parents and tell them, like in the Arab world, I'd like to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They'd be like, oh no, you're not crazy, Habibi. Why do you want to go and see a professional, right? Because, or maybe not most, I don't want to also generalize, but let's say this is the like floating idea that people who see therapists might be a bit loony, right? So I think this is changing definitely right now, and I think it is more difficult for men to accept this, because I think from our culture we're raised to be tough, we're raised to be responsible. Everyone leans on you. You never lean on anyone. You cannot show signs of weakness. You cannot, even like toddlers now. If a boy toddler cries, you're like, nah, Habibi, boys don't cry, men don't cry, right? But for females, it's all right. So this whole approach kind of shapes you. Like it shapes you bit by bit, and as you grow, this grows with you, right? I think this is changing now for sure. I think people are highlight of mental health is much more now. Like, if it's a trend, everyone's going to get on board, right? Knowledge is going to be shoved down your throat. So people now are doing a lot of things. Like, people are now exercising is a form of like it's something that enhances your mental health, right? People are eating better. That also enhances your mental health. People are doing yoga, meditation, you name it, whatever, Pilates. People are doing all these new things in search of this calm mind, the right to me for me to be mentally healthy. So these things are gonna come more or less. We're on our way there, and I think the stigma is melting. It's there, of course, because there's years of shoving this idea that men cannot be weak and cannot, melt down or break down or have any sort of episode of any kind, because you're holding this house together, you're holding this company together, you're holding whatever, this community together, and it's a shared responsibility, right? We're all humans. It's a shared responsibility, and everyone's allowed the chance to have a breakdown, and everyone should support that person, whether he or she, to get back on their feet. So yeah, culturally we do have a few things to get over. We are getting over them, and there is a lot of men now in the field. Yeah, like they're not as much, but there are the numbers are increasing. And let me tell you something about stigma, by the way, and perception. So it's all about perception, right? Prior to Special Olympics 2019, which was hosted in Abu Dhabi, people looked at people of determination in a completely different way than after the games, right?
Yes, buddy.
So we're talking about perceptions and how from like they can really shift, and that's the idea behind it. So 2019, Abu Dhabi hosted the Special Olympics, the World Games, right? And before Special Olympics, people's perceptions about people's determinations were completely different than after it, right? So I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, people were ashamed to have sons or daughters with disabilities. It was something that, it's frowned upon, or if you do have them, then maybe not really show them to the community, just keep them in. They have their nannies, they led a very difficult life. And things, of course, have improved a lot since then, but still you can see that before Special Olympics, you're not really used to see people of determination out in malls or cinemas or restaurants or just out and about in schools, in the workplace. These things were not that common, right? And people's perceptions were haram. It was more of a pity kind of perception. Let's take care of them. Let's, they can't do anything. And it's surprising how Special Olympics came, and suddenly people of determination were everywhere in UAE, in malls, restaurants, everywhere, right? Everywhere. And people really saw what they can do, right? They have capabilities. They can play sports. They can go to schools, can go to universities. They can work. So a lot of things people saw firsthand that people of determination can do, and that really shifted the perception, right? Like after the games, people approach people of determination completely different now, and they treat them like they treat everyone else, and that's how it's supposed to be. Mental health it just needs its moment to shine, right? So people's perceptions now are a bit maybe outdated, but by time, the more we talk about it, the more we self-advocate, the more this conversation becomes normalized, basically, the more you're going to see people's perceptions shifting towards a more progressive thinking, like where these things happen, and they're going to happen at some point in my life or in my loved ones' lives. And I just need to be there and be there for them and support them, and together we're going to, evolve.
Exactly. That's very interesting.
I think as well, it's kind of, maybe becoming more of a conversation about inclusion. Not that people have necessarily been excluded because of, for bad reasons, but I just think, maybe through caring, or like Ahmed was saying, like, a different understanding, maybe not even a lack of understanding, but a different view of things. So for us, it's about inclusion as well as raising awareness, and making sure that, people have as much as possible, like the same opportunities, whether that's because, you have a cognitive impairment or a learning disability kind of thing, or if it's because actually, you've been having periods of depression, which has maybe really interrupted your school life or, or your work life, or, so just making sure that, everyone gets to kind of participate as much as they can.
It's pretty interesting you said that, because, you just mentioned something about like work. And the first thing that popped in my head now when you just said work is especially like the days and the times that we live in now with regard to the whole COVID virus, etc., and all of that, and people's they're losing jobs, their job security is being shaken. What do you guys think of ways and on how to ease this stress that people have, or are actually not have and are going through with regard to the pandemic, and how the entire market is shifting up and down, and families are losing their jobs, they're forced to go back home, etc., and all of that. They live in a kind of, actually we live in an uncertain, shaky kind of period of time, I mean, when no one knows what's next. I mean, everyone is literally on their toes, living day by day, where like, okay, am I gonna sleep today in this bed and wake up and have no bed to sleep on, or God forbid sleep somewhere else, etc.? I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think of this? I mean, it's pretty sad.
I mean, for me, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said about uncertainty. So I think, as humans, we like to be able to kind of control our environment. We like to, we are creatures of habit, creatures of routine, and the whole world is kind of geared up for that. So all of a sudden, when you don't know what's happening, you look to your leaders as well. Leaders of government, can only make their best responses to things as situations evolve and change. Like you were saying, the job security nothing is kind of sure anymore, which is frightening for people. And it's difficult because you can't sort of say to people, do X, Y, and Z, and it will be okay, because none of us actually know. So I think for me, one of the things, certainly that I've helped kind of, other family and friends do at the moment, and some of the themes that have maybe been coming out of conversations with other people kind of beyond that is how do you can't control what's going on in the wider world. So, you have to almost, there's a practical thing you can do. So you have to think about what you can control. So what you can do is actually just get a piece of paper and you can draw 3 circles. And in the main circle is what you can control. So that is, what you put on your body for clothes, what you eat, where you go, who you talk to, things you can directly control. Then in the next, things you can influence. So, things that maybe aren't directly in your control, but, you can have some impact over, so whether you send your kids back to school, or, whether you can work from home, all those kind of things that, maybe you can influence. And then everything else you write in the other one, which is things that are beyond your control, because actually it kind of sometimes helps frame things. When there is no certainty, you can almost have a bit of a concrete image of your bit of the world and think, well, okay, maybe I wanted to go and see my family member in, I don't know, Brazil. That has to go in the beyond your control, because maybe there aren't flights, maybe there are reasons you can't go, or you just want things to go back to normal. Doesn't everyone? But the thing is, you can't directly control that. You can maybe control little bits that impact your life. And in that kind of your control and influence is maybe thinking about self-care for you and your family. So what are the things I can do today if I'm feeling overwhelmed? So, we can say, okay, maybe lay off the news. Don't watch the news for the day. Right. Try and do something. Did you sleep well? Do you need, did you eat yet? Could you try some yoga? Could you, tidy a drawer that you've been meaning to do? Little things that kind of break up what could otherwise seem like a quite overwhelming day, and now things are opening up a bit more here. If people feel confident, maybe they could go, for a walk somewhere, or they could go out for a coffee or something at a mall, or they, if they're able to go to a gym, or things that maybe kind of help you relieve some of that stress.
The silver lining, basically, I think it's a silver lining, because I truly believe that the reason why we're going through this is for it to teach us something, or for it to have us think and appreciate about the little things that we have more. Like we, for example, don't appreciate staying at home quite often back in the day prior to the pandemic happening. We always wanted to go out and do things and etc. and all of that. But the minute this happened, it showed us some of the values and some of the things that we have in our toolbox, but we were missing. Quality time with the family. I mean, you get to call, even if your family were abroad and you couldn't go to see them or whatever and all that, bummer, etc. and all of that. But you can get to talk to them more often now with with social media, etc., and all of that. You can get to interact with them. You can get to spend more time at your house and redecorate the things in your house, etc. These kind of little things which we never really paid attention to. It was right in front of us, but we were always consumed with doing things outside this and whatever. And the minute these things have been shut, we're just like lost. I'm like, whoa, what am I gonna do? I'm so bored. I can't do this. Well, I don't want to read. I don't want to this. Oh my god, this. Then you reach to like a mental health issue which you've created. Like you have self-inflicted this upon yourself.
I think also it's maybe sometimes people don't have the resources. Like sometimes people maybe don't have the kind of the wherewithal or the resilience to kind of pull themselves through it. But I think it's really interesting, and I really agree with you. Actually, for me, it was really nice to actually get to spend some time with my now adult daughter, who's normally leading a super busy life that I never see. But I guess it's and it's, I think if you can take the positives, that's really good. And I think it's also important to realize that not everyone can, which is why the response here has been really great. Services kind of mobilized really quickly. They launched a mental health helpline. I think you've got the number to give out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Saad's thing that I wanted to discuss as well about like the with you guys, but I think he's the one who's gonna answer this with the UAE's involvement regarding mental health and like the whole innovation that happened for mental health. I think the biggest factor that sparked this and shot it up the sky was this pandemic, I guess. This is what I think. This is from my own perspective. I mean, what do you think? And how did the UAE help in this? Like, what's your say in this?
So, like Sarah said, the UAE actually had a very fast response with services when all this happened. I think there was an agenda prior to this ever happening. There was an agenda to address this topic. COVID just made it all the more reason to expedite the process, have more services. So the UAE currently has the very first like UAE national hotline where people can talk if they they're feeling stressed, they lost their jobs, they're going through a tough time. So whatever it is, it's a mental health hotline. It's 800 HOPE. So 800-4673, and anyone can call. They can just ask for help. A lot of things the UAE has done. So in 2020, so besides this hotline, they have published the very first research paper on. So you can find it on the Department of Health website. Research paper on mental health. I think starting from 1971 till 2019.
Wow.
So that's a huge step. Yep. There's social authority now called ManBun. They've been here for almost, I think, a year and a half, and they basically run incubators for social initiatives. And this year's, in the beginning of this year's cohort, like the framework or the cohort was revolving around mental health. So anyone who had the mental health initiative idea, they applied, and now they have like 10 initiatives on their way to becoming businesses. Addressing these topics. What else? So one other very important thing as well, that last year, I think the end of last year, Abu Dhabi signed the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and one of them, so there's 17 goals, and one of them is good health and well-being. So that also, I think the UAE is really on top of this. Like it's a theme this year, especially with COVID, that all right, it's an issue people are facing on a daily basis, and they are addressing it.
That's interesting. I mean, it's funny that you said incubators, because the fairy tale told me that you guys are starting a company. So I want everyone to know about it. I mean, I know bits and pieces about it, and it's a pretty damn interesting concept of a company. I mean, yes, we're talking about mental health, guys, whoever is listening. So it is about mental health, and I'm gonna give the platform to the guys to talk about it, because it's really fascinating. I mean, they're gonna give you the name, and they're gonna talk about it. Let's go. What's the company's name?
So we're better together, because we're better together. Clues in the name. And really, we're kind of trying to address all the things that we've talked about today. So, trying to break a little bit more of the stigma, try and raise awareness, try and help people kind of develop a bit more of a language around mental health and well-being, understanding what's going on for them, and learning how to kind of self-care, but also how to have those difficult conversations. We talked about how hard it is sometimes to find someone who's just going to listen to you. So it's, we want to try and work with people to, help people develop some of those listening skills, to kind of have a think about how you can respond to someone, what to say. So we're hoping to work with universities, with businesses, with anyone that wants some help, really, raising awareness and, maybe working on strategies for supporting employees or students or whatever it is. In the UAE, and then.
Well, whoever is listening, guys, and has some money, invest.
Invest in the best.
I don't have that much money to invest, anyways. But I'm going to invest with my mental health.
We're also happy to take some volunteers as well, because we have a ton of work to do. So
that's beautiful, actually. That's
any
really
willing people who fancy giving some time.
That's such a beautiful idea, and I hope you guys can expand on the idea of involving your startup company in by signing contracts, for instance, with actual firms and companies, and helping their employees have a better, for example, working hours, or reinforcing the relationship with their employers and their clients, etc., and all that. Because I think this, by doing so, this will have an extreme positive impact on the productivity of work here, etc., and all that.
Exactly. Happy staff, and ones that feel supported are by far more productive. I can't pull a statistic out of thin air, but they are there. The research is there to show that it's important.
Happy employee, heavy pockets. Let's be honest about it. Come on. I mean, the productivity increases, the pockets will thicken.
Yeah.
So what message do you guys want to spread out regarding your company to the people, and tell them about where they can find you guys on social media? What's the lingo that you guys go with, the motto of Better Together?
It's always better when we're together.
It's as simple as it is, as refreshing it sounds.
It's just simple, It's always better when we're together. In anything in life,
Yeah.
Even misery. Don't they say misery loves company? So even in misery, it's better when we're together, So
exactly.
Good times and bad times.
Yeah. Just connecting people, aren't we? Connecting people and communities, and
we want to build this, healthy, supportive community, where everyone feels safe, everyone feels included. So we need everyone in the community to do so, right? Everyone has to play their part.
So happy for you guys, honestly. It's such a brilliant, refreshing idea, and I hope people who listen to this would appreciate such commitment from the both of you guys and your partners and colleagues. And I really hope that this goes somewhere. Honestly,
we hope so too.
People really do need such people, or such inspirations like you to make a change in this world. I mean,
thank you.
It is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And if anyone would like to support us, of course, we'd love the support. So you can always follow us on Instagram at Better Together AE, or you can drop us an email at btglobalcommunity at gmail.com. So we'd appreciate the support, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Indeed. All right, guys. I mean, we unfortunately have reached to the end of this episode, but what I like to do, and it's something that I've been wanting to do, and I failed to do it in my first episode, but I'm hopefully going to be doing it in every episode. I am going to ask each individual that I am hosting, a question. And this question has absolutely no reference to the topic of the podcast. And this question will merely just reveal what this person is made of. Basically, it's funny, it's interesting,
Interesting.
Come on, guys. I mean, it's good banter at the end of the day,
Interesting is an interesting word.
Exactly. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna go with ladies first as usual. So
Yes.
we're
Thank you, guys.
gonna lay the first punch and we see how things go.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sarah,
Mm.
if I am to ask you, what does your ideal life look like?
Ooh.
And if you want me
Take
to
that
expand
question.
on this, if you could design the perfect life for yourself or for your surrounding, what would it entail?
Oh,
Sarah,
interesting.
what would you like? You scrape the surface. I don't want you to like freeze out on me and then go like the internet is cut off or whatever.
To be honest, it's pretty simple. So I like the work that we do. So I would like to do that. Genuinely raising awareness, helping people with mental health illnesses, challenges, whatever. Here in some of the developing countries, I'd love to go and do some of that. And for me and my family, just a simple, healthy life with a lot of cycling because we're keen cyclists. So that would be my,
Some nice scenery to cycle to.
Yeah.
that would be epic.
I'd be good to be happy. And a lot of hummus.
That is pretty interesting. That is pretty interesting. See, you passed the test. See, it wasn't that hard, was it? I mean, guys, if you guys weren't listening, people who are listening now, I've been literally tormenting their brain for the past week about this question. I'm like, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna put
That
you
is
on your
true.
toes and whatever, and like the looks on their faces and Sarah's face. The minute I
It's a
was
lot of
about to ask the
anticipation.
question, she was about to faint. You're like, okay, what are you about?
I was waiting for my Wi-Fi. I was hoping for my Wi-Fi to drop.
There you go. Wasn't so hard, was it?
Can I take a freeze now? Like,
No, you're not going anywhere because the question that I'm about to ask you is.
can I take Sarah's question?
No, buddy. It wouldn't be that hard, would it?
Just gotta roll with it.
Right. So the question that I've been wanting to ask you is: do
Hit
you
me.
think that you're living or that you live a meaningful life?
100%. 100%. I think
that.
I wake up every day excited about my day. So I think that's so I come from a background of engineering and I worked in engineering for 7 years. I think the last couple of years maybe I woke up dreading the day, dreading going to work, dreading this whole thing that I had to do. I just, for the past two or 3 years, since I shifted to the social sector, whether it's people of determination, working with people of determination, or working in the mental health sector, I just wake up, excited for the day. I want to see what gets on my plate today and how I'm going to deal with it. It's just it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. I enjoy it. I enjoy the struggles, the challenges, everything. 100%. I think so. Yeah, I do live a meaningful life.
Was it so hard? Was it? I mean, you guys
Nah.
were ending the episode with smiles and hugs and kisses.
Yeah. Thank you for
Social
going easy
distance
on us.
That's amazing. Well, guys,
Thank you.
this is the end of the
Thank
episode.
you.
I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope everyone that's listening to us would enjoy the episode. Yeah, that's it for me. You guys.
Been good.
Thank you guys so
Thank you
much.
for hosting.
Take care.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you again. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.